Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where this is a channel we do book reviews looking for the best of fun escapist books. Today we're going to do a book review of The Golden Age of Magic by Luanne Smith. I don't have a book to hold up because I got it free from Amazon Prime, one of their books from June, their first reads books. So I've only got a digital copy. It's a fantasy, a lighthearted kind of fantasy adventure, slightly a mystery, but mostly just fantasy, mostly just pure fantasy book. So first, the plot. The story is about a novice fairy godmother or fairy guardian, and she is learning the ropes of what her magic can do. And fairy guardians, fae guardians, I believe they're called in this book, are women who are raised to try and basically give good luck to people. They go around and they pick somebody who they feel like has the aura of a rising star and helps nudge them along their path. It can be get the peasant girl to marry the prince kind of thing, or it could be get the artist to make fantastic works of art that are well known. It could be anything. Whatever it is that is destined for that person, they help them along the way. And this story takes place in between the world wars. So World War I has already happened and World War II has not yet happened, and it's kind of goes in with the title of the book, The Golden Age of Magic. This is the golden age of Hollywood, so the silent films, and it takes place in California, in Hollywood. And our main character, Celeste, is gone there to try and find her first protege. And most of the story takes place in that environment where she has gone and she discovers that there seems to be a lot of bad luck. She calls it basically a curse. And a lot of the people that are around there are like, there's a curse on the studio because there are fires and accidents and things breaking and debts piling up and all sorts of things are happening, accumulating in a murder. And our fairy godmother, our fae guardian, is trying to make one of the characters be a success through the midst of this and trying to figure out what's going on with all this bad luck. Okay, there's going to be very minor spoilers as I do my review. Not enough that I think that if you haven't read the book that you should stop now or anything like that, but just be aware it may give you some hints about the outcome. All right, so some things I like about this. First of all, I think that there were some clever twists on the plot. Our main character is trying to, this is not a murder mystery, whether she's trying to solve a puzzle. It's more she's trying to figure out the origin of the curse, the origin of what it is that's going along that's making all the bad luck. And she eventually comes to the conclusion it's a person doing this, and who that person is, not what the person is, but who, does have several red herrings on who it could be and why. And I did like that. So it wasn't obvious who the bad guy was, which for any kind of mystery in a book, it's always nice when you don't see it, halfway through the book, you're like, oh, that's what it is. So that was good. The setting in the early 20s maybe, 1920s maybe, I think that may be where it's in, it's an interesting setting. They have some hints of things like that. There's a lot of talk about the clothing people wear and the little bit on the things that people are driving. There's enough interesting things about that makes it kind of almost historically interesting, that I liked that. So I like the setting that the author picked. Our heroine, for the most part, I liked her. I'll come back to the one exception when I get to the dislikes. But for the most part, I liked her. She was an optimistic person. She was a nice person. She has a familiar with her, an animal familiar, and I liked what the author chose to give her. It was unusual, and their interactions were interesting. Her magic abilities were sort of unique in the way they worked, and I liked that. So a lot of the things about our main character I liked. I liked her decision making for the most part. I didn't think that she made completely idiotic choices in her life. She was a little oblivious sometimes, but not too bad. For the most part, I liked the character. So that was nice. I liked the lack of romance in the book. So this book does not have a big romantic love story in it. Not for our main character, not for the protege either. Which I like this because it kind of escaped the trap of some cliches, some tropes that could get in there. Because as you know, a fairy godmother is supposed to lead you to your true love. Well, in this case, she rejected that. She's like, no, I'm not going to do a love story. And I liked the way the author handled that. Now, I didn't like everything when it came to romance, because, for example, a different character was very, I completely rejected her view of marriage, because I think marriage is a wonderful thing, and that particular character was all about, no, I will never be tied down, it just makes me a slave to men, I shall never do that, instead I will go around breaking hearts, apparently. And I just was I didn't really like her attitude towards that, but overall, the focus that was not about romance ended up being a positive in this book. Okay, so there were a couple things I disliked about this. Some things that would have been better if the author had changed some things. These are mostly minor, but I will point them out. One is our main character. I said I really liked her, but there was one thing that about halfway through the story I was pulling my hair out in frustration, and that is the author sets up that there are good fairy godmothers, and there's basically their opposite, the bad fairy godmothers, for lack of a better term, the skulks. And they go around creating bad luck. So when our main character gets to the Hollywood studio and all this bad luck is happening, and she keeps going, there's a curse, there must be a curse, and it never crosses her mind about the skulks. It just doesn't until somebody else brings it up. And I'm just like, it was really, really, really obvious that there has to be a skulk involved, that is going to be the bad guy. Now that doesn't tell you who that is, but the fact that what it was should have been really obvious. And our main character just never clued in. And that got a little irritating. So it's the one thing about our character. The oblivious was a little too extreme in this sense that I didn't like. So coming back to the marriage thing, the author was clearly a little hyper-feminist, to the point of man-hating. There is, I consider this, it was too much, it was irritating. So for example, as our main character Celeste is casting a spell to recharge her magic powers or whatever, part of that was she was whispering, the feminine divine. And I'm like, gag, ugh. Or there's several sentences about, they want to demolish the patriarchy. And again, whatever. It was not take your sledgehammer and slam it into my face with the stupid feminist things, but it was a little too much for me. I didn't like that. All the good guys are all women, all the bad guys and potential bad guys are all men. It's very much like, give me a break. Anyway, so it wasn't so bad that I wouldn't recommend the book because of that, but it irritated me. All right, the ending. Now, I wouldn't consider this a negative necessarily, but kind of, this is not a happily ever after kind of thing. They resolve the mystery of who done it, and they resolved the bad guy situation, but at the end, it has kind of a bittersweet ending, kind of a downer ending, even though there's also positives to that. So it was not all cheerful and roses right at the end. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a bad thing, not a negative thing. It does have a satisfying ending, but it was a little bit kind of like, oh, it's not all great. And it kind of felt realistic for that, I guess. It didn't all get tied up in a nice, neat bow. So there is that. Okay, another negative I would have about the storytelling was the magic. The rules of magic are not clear at all. What are the rules? So it starts out with our main character doing some spectacular magic. She can change people's minds at a whim. These are not the droids you're looking for. And everybody's like, oh, they're not the droids I'm looking for. That kind of level of mind manipulation. She can also completely make an entirely furnished house out of almost nothing, and it's real enough to sleep in. She can make a car that she wants, any kind of car she wants, just poof, there it is. And it doesn't seem like it's a big drag on her magic to do this kind of things. So all these kind of things that she can do. So for most of the story, you get the impression that she can change reality in any way she wants, to any extreme she wants, and it just seems overpowered, without limit, in a weird way. And there don't seem to be any rules on what she can and can't do. Later on in the story, you find a couple of weaknesses, but they almost feel tacked on and not very weak. Like, oh no, cold is a problem. I mean, like, cold is a problem? You can change reality. Why can't you just change, to have a big light right there, or a fire or something? I don't know. It was, the rules were a little bit flaky and a little bit overpowered, and it was kind of weird. So I didn't love the way the magic worked in this book. And my last negative thing on this would be, so you have your good guys, fairy godmothers, who are out doing things, but you have one fairy godmother who doesn't have any trouble killing people. And this comes up a couple of times. Not that she kills multiple people, but that it comes up right at the beginning of the story. So this is not a spoiler, that she, put a curse on a baby, a death curse on a baby. And that didn't end up going anywhere. But, it was fixed. But nobody seems bothered by this. Oh yeah, no big deal. And, except our main character was kind of horrified, rightfully so, right? So, and then she eventually kills somebody. And you kind of sit there and go, am I supposed to be cheering for her doing this? Is she a good guy? Is she not a good guy? It's not always clear on this. And I didn't like that it's okay for the fairy godmothers to go around and murder people just because? Not even self-defense, just they get offended? I don't know. So I did not like that. That was another thing. So the rules of the world I didn't always care for, or didn't always think were well-defined or good. So there's that. Okay, so that's pretty much my review of this book. Overall, this is right on that border again between highly recommended and just being okay. And I think overall I'm going to give it a recommended, 2 thumbs up kind of thing. There were some things I didn't like about it, but I don't think any of it was enough to say don't go read it. It's 4 out of 5 stars kind of thing. And so I recommend it. It's going to be part of my best of list for a fantasy, a lighthearted fantasy. I will say that this was the first time I've ever done the Amazon First Look thing, and I kind of liked that, so I may do more of those. This was a first look from June of 2025. I'm not sure when exactly this video is going to be posted, but it may be outside of June. I'll try and get it into June. It depends on how my videos stack up, since I have a little bit of leeway between when I video and when they post. Okay, I have to jump in because I finished recording yesterday, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. So today I have picked my next book for my part 2. It's going to be Still Life by Louise Penny. This is a murder mystery, a classic whodunit with a detective. It's Chief Inspector Gamache Mysteries. So the first in that series. So I hope you will join me next time for a murder mystery, and thank you for watching.